it's Betsy, and today we have a fun video. We're going to be testing out the new Gods and Monsters palette by Rouge Labs. As you can see, it says Sumptuous Hues from the Chateau of Evil. Now, this palette is 12 months. It is made from recyclable packaging, and it is cruelty-free. And one thing that I love that Rouge Labs does is, like, the sleeve is different than the palette artwork. So they're both extremely unique and cool. And this is the third palette that I purchased from them. These are handmade shadows. This palette retails for $32.99. Their shop is on Etsy. I actually even bought one of their shirts. See, it's like a space cabbage with a skull on it, because there's something like really unique about this brand that I just adore. And when I saw this color story, I was like, I need you in my life. So it is a 12-pan color palette, and we're gonna do a multiple look video with this. So, you know, so that way you can kind of see if it's something you want, and it, you know, gives you a little chance to see some inspiration. So the first shade in the palette is Décolletage, which is like a creamy off-white metallic. Then we have the shade Saint Honor, which is a beautiful coral matte. Then we have the shade Dauphin, which is like a Columbia blue or a cornflower blue. And I am swatching them multiple times just to kind of build up the color so you can see it better. Then we have the shade Dark Paradise, which is like a navy blue shimmer with a little bit of silver to it. You see how it has a little bit more of a different reflect. I don't think it's supposed to be like a duochrome. It's just how that shade reflects out on my hand. Then we have the shade Guillotine, which is like a rusty red. Now, this is one of the, almost what you would consider a sequin shadow. So it's like a matte with shimmer, like glitter particles in it. But when you swatch it out, you can't see the glitter anymore. Then we have the shade Body Electric, which is like a shimmery pea green. Very, very pretty. Then we have Caravaggio, which is a warm, almost yellow toned nude. So it's on like a mixture between a peachy and a yellow. Doesn't show up the best on my skin tone, but you know, that's how it goes. Then we have the shade Grandeur, which is a army green. Isn't that a pretty color? Wipe off my fingertips. So that's the first 8 shades. Then we have Au revoir, I think is how you say this one, which is like a army green metallic. Then we have the shade Game of Flats, which is a lavender matte shade. And I will tell you, their mattes are extremely soft. Then we have the shade Macabre, which is, this isn't like a true navy. To me, this is more like a still blue and a pretty shade. And then last but certainly not least is a metallic coral called Ultraviolet. So you can see that is all 12 of the colors. I really, really like this color story. I think it is super unique, which is, again, part of the reason why I enjoy this brand. This is the third palette, as I said, I purchased from them. And I have actually pre-ordered all of them. They ship quickly. They do keep you up to date on things, which I think is extremely important. There are too many times, like when you buy things online and it's like, oh, we're not gonna keep you informed if ship dates and things like that change. To me, that being able to trust a brand is definitely important. So we're gonna put on our eye tapes and we're going to dig into the palette. So I think the first look I want to do something that is like more on the corally / blue side, because I feel like this is such a unique color story. So first thing I'm gonna grab, this is a BK Beauty 203 brush, and I'm gonna go into the shade Saint Honor, which is that coral matte, and we're gonna apply that to the front half of the eye. That's a beautiful color. And I did prime my eyes with the NARS Smudge Proof Eye Base in Light today, because I knew I was going to be working with some of the lighter shadows, and I was like, well, if I'm going to do that, I need something that is a little bit lighter than my skin tone to kind of help shadows pop. You know, to me, I don't mind giving shadows some help because sometimes they need it. Not because they're bad formulas, it's just when you have a medium skin tone, some lighter shades don't always show up the best. So making it where they have a chance to. But see how pretty that color is? I love that color. I'm a sucker for a good coral. I'm also a sucker for a good green, but you know, it is what it is. So now I'm going to go ahead and grab another 205, and we're gonna go into the shade Dolphin, which is that cornflower blue color. And we're going to put that on the back half of the eye, but I'm not gonna blend them. Like, I'm gonna lightly tap over where I put the shade Saint Honor, but I'm not going to like completely blend them together because I don't want that color to get muddy. Because a lot of times when you're blending like a coral and a blue together, if you're not careful, they will get muddy. So I'm just going over slightly and not really blending a whole lot, but more like tapping and packing. It kind of gives me a little bit more control with it. See what I'm saying? Okay, I'm gonna take a clean, this is a BK Beauty 201, and I'm just going over the edges of where I put those two colors just to make sure everything is smooth and blended. I really like this so far. Okay, so now I need something kind of small to blend in a little bit deeper. So I'm gonna grab, this is the ColourPop E19, so it's still a blendy brush, but it's super tiny. And we're gonna go into the shade Guillotine. And we're gonna use that in the front half of the eye, just to add a little bit of depth to the coral shade. So I'm just keeping that in the front half of the eye. Because to me, especially on my skin tone, you need a little depth. If not, things can look a little flat, or at least that's how I feel. And I feel like this palette has enough colors that I can build in depth without it like taking away from the other shades that are in here, if that makes sense. So as you can see, I'm pretty much just placing that in the crease, but this is in the front half of the crease. It goes a little bit above and a little bit below, but that's kind of, you know, the nature of shadow. Okay, so that is the front color. Now I'm gonna grab, this is the Morphe and Jaclyn Hill. This is the JH49, and I'm gonna go in the shade Macabre, that Still Blue shade. And I'm going to do the same thing that I did with Guillotine, but this time we're gonna do it towards the back of the eye. See how that adds just enough depth. See how pretty that looks? There we go. But yeah, I always love to add a little bit more to a look. And these blend so well. Like, there's definitely not any issues with blending. Okay. So since I've got the darker shade laid down, I'm gonna go back in with that 205 brush from BK Beauty, and I'm gonna go over the edge just a little bit with the shade Dolphin, just to make sure we've got the color pigment the way that we want it to look. Just tapping over. Isn't that pretty? And then I'm gonna do the same thing again with the front with the shade Saint Honor. Not really blending, just taking the color and tapping. But you can see, I mean, hopefully you can tell on this how well these colors do together. That looks pretty. Okay, so now I need a flat brush. Okie dokie. So we're gonna grab, this is a Kaleidos S4, so it's a good flat brush, and I'm gonna go in with my Too Faced glitter glue. Y'all know I use this pretty much anytime I use a shimmer. So we're gonna put this all over the lid, front and back side, because we're gonna keep with the theme of two colors on the front, or the two-toned eye look, that coral and blue look. Okay. So first thing I'm gonna go into is I'm gonna take that brush and I'm gonna go into the Dark Paradise, which is the navy shimmer. And we're gonna use that all over the back half of the lid. Okay. Now we're gonna do the same thing on the other eye. There we go. I'm gonna take and wipe that brush off, because I'm gonna use the same brush, and we're gonna go into the shade Ultraviolet, which is the coral shimmer. And we're gonna do the same thing we just did, but we're gonna do it on the front. That's a pretty color. I don't think I have anything that is like Ultraviolet in my collection, which is probably a color like, there's no way. But I honestly, I don't think that I do. And when I'm doing this, I'm kind of going over slightly where I placed both of the colors so they blend together. Not a whole lot, but just enough. So there we go. My husband's getting a phone call. There we go. What do you think? Okay, so now I'm gonna go off camera, do the rest of my face, and then we'll come back and do the lower lash line. So we're back. I have the rest of my face on. I used my Trixie Cosmetics, the Mod About You blush palette. I mixed together Go Go Girl and Plush Bunny. I used Creamsicle as my highlight because I really wanted this kind of warm, summery look. I used the Glam Light S'mores palette, and I used Chocolate, this shade over here, as my bronzer. On my lips, I have the shimmering version of the Gucci Agatha Orange. And then in my waterline, I have the shade Showdown by ColourPop. So I'm gonna grab my Jaclyn Hill brush. This is the JH49 by Morphe and Jaclyn Hill. We're gonna go into this shade Macabre and use this under our lower lash line. I feel very beachy and nautical. Now I know this probably isn't what a lot of people would consider beachy and nautical, but the color story definitely of what I've used today definitely is more of like what I would consider beachy. And so I'm gonna grab that BK Beauty 205 that still has a little bit of dolphin on it, and we're going to go underneath just to make sure everything's blended. Plus I like to have like a lot of shadow under my eyes for some reason. Well, not for some reason. It definitely helps hide my wrinkly under eyes, or at least it does in my opinion, you know. Someone else might have a different point of view, but I think that it does that amazing. So I'm gonna use the other 205 with the shade Saint Honor on it. And I'm going to add that, just tap that into my inner corner because I want to carry that coral shade down just a little bit. There we go. Just to give it where it wraps around, see, just slightly. Perfect, perfect. And now I need a little tiny little brush. This is the Lunar Beauty LB6, which is just a tiny little pencil brush. I'm gonna go into that shade Decolletage, or we're going to apply that as our inner corner highlight to add just a tad bit of brightness. See how that just adds ever so slightly. There we go. So this is the completed first look with the Gods and Monsters palette. What do you think? I think it's gorgeous. I love it. So we'll see y'all tomorrow for another look. So we're back and we're gonna film another look with the Gods and Monster palette by Rebel Rouge Labs. Now, if you hear the weather outside, it is absolutely atrocious, but I wanted to go ahead and film. So I think we're gonna play with some of the greens today. So I'm first gonna go into this shade Caravaggio with the BK Beauty 201 palette, or 201 brush, not palette. I am tired. It has been storming all night. And this is kind of the start, like June 1st I think is considered the actual first day of hurricane season. So now I'm just like anticipating when it will happen, if that makes sense. Because it's like, okay, once the storms like this, the summer storms, it's like, okay, now we're getting into hurricane season. So, which we have storms all year long, but like whenever you get these kind of storms, I guess, because we get heavy amounts of rain. I don't know if the store will flood or not, and it's supposed to do this every single day until, I think it was next Monday. But it's our weather, so it changes quite a bit. But you see how easy those shadows are to apply. I mean, my goodness, it just doesn't get any, it doesn't get any better than that. That's part of the reason why I do enjoy Rebel Rouge Labs. I think that their quality is great. So now I'm gonna go into, this is a Zoeva Luxe 227 brush, and we're gonna go into the shade right here, which is Granger. I love a good army green. And I think it'll look good with this more yellowy shade. Yes. I'm trying to play with more unique color combinations. So I'm having fun. And that's what makeup should be. It should be fun. If it's not fun, then you're definitely not doing it right. Or, you know what I mean? Or at least in my opinion. Like, I don't ever want to not like playing with makeup on YouTube. So whenever I feel myself getting in like a rut, I try to make changes to keep it where I'm still enjoying. Now, as you can see, these Zoeva brushes, I'm not sure if you can see on camera, but like they have stray hairs. These aren't my favorite brushes. I don't remember. I think these came in a BoxyCharm. But I stopped getting BoxyCharm a while back. But I'm trying to get like ahead in videos somewhat, but not too much, because you know, you want to keep up to date with the new makeup and stuff coming out that you're spending money on. But yeah, look how pretty that looks. That blended out so beautifully. I like how that looks. Okie dokie, that's pretty easy. I'm gonna take my 201 brush and just go over the edges and make sure everything's nice and smooth, because I have issues with sometimes the colors in this front portion of my eye because I'm not a spring chicken anymore. So I have to make sure that area is blended really well because it can catch in those creases. And I know I'm not the only one like that. So I'm gonna grab, this is the Too Faced glitter glue, which is almost empty. This stuff lasts forever. I like the NYX one too. I also really like the Glam Shop one, but you know, whatever is easiest for you to get a hold of. I have found that glitter glue helps everything stick to my eyes really well. Helps with creasing and color. So I use it pretty much every time I do a shimmer. So I'm gonna go into Au Revoir. I think that's how you say that one, which is like that deep bronzy kind of brassy tone. And we're going to apply that to the outer portion of the eyelid. I don't know if I told you what brush I'm using. I'm using an E55 shading brush by Sigma. So as you can see, that shade really blends with grandeur really, really well. So just kind of pack it on there to add some depth. I always like to keep some darkness towards the outside of my eyes. At least it works well for me. I'm gonna wipe off that brush. I just have a makeup wipe right here. And now I'm gonna go into the shade Body Electric, which is that like split green shade, pea green, split pea shade. And we're going to apply that to the front half of the eye. Now, one thing about the Rebel Rouge Lab formula is like their shimmers are pretty. They're not the most metallic or reflective. I prefer their mattes over their shimmers. They have some unique colors in their shimmers. It's just I prefer their mattes because I prefer, and I've talked about this before, like the super shiny, super sparkly kind of shimmers. Those are what are the favorites in my book. See how pretty that looks? Okay, now I'm going to take my Zoeva brush again, and we're just going to take and go over the edges, make sure everything's blended together. And that's it. So now I'm gonna go off camera, do the rest of my makeup. We'll come back and do the lower lash line. So I'm back and I have the rest of my face on. I used the Benefit Cheek Stars palette for highlight, blush, and bronzer. So I used Hoola bronzer. Can't really see much of it. I mixed Sugar Bomb and Dallas for my blush, and then I used the Cookie highlight. I look glowy and tan. And then on my lips, I used the Tom Ford Gloss and Aura. And for my waterline, I used the Metallic Moss from Tom Ford. I really love that with a green look. It is so easy to use. I'm not gonna wear falsies today because the weather's a little atrocious and I'm just not in the mood. So I'm gonna grab a Cleona brush. This is, you can still use this under your lashes. It's kind of like a dense brush, but it's good for under the eyes. So I'm gonna go into the shade Caravaggio, and we're gonna just smudge that out under the eyes because I don't want anything, like, I always go super dark and it already has a dark eyeliner, so I think this will keep it from being like ultra dark, I guess is the best way to put it. Maybe not. And it also kind of blends out the metallic moss. But I do love these kind of shades with my eye color. And then last but not least, we're gonna use the shade Décolletage, that cream shade right here, for the inner corner. Isn't that pretty? There we go. So this is the second look. Okay, we'll come back and do a third. So I'm back to do my third and final look with the Rebel Rouge Labs palette. I have the rest of my face on today, which I know is unusual, but I was playing with something different earlier today, and so we're gonna film like this. I do have on the Fenty Cream in Mauve Wives. So I've used most of the colors, so we're gonna kind of just play around. So we're gonna go in with Game of Flats, which is that beautiful lavender shade, and this is a B11 by Spectrum. And I'm thinking I'm gonna do a halo eye again. I did one of these the other day and I was like, that is so pretty. Why don't I do these more? So that's what we're gonna do. But like as I said before, Rebel Rouge Labs, I really like their matte formula. I hope that they do add some more kind of bam in your face shimmers, but I do really like their matte formula. And with this tiny of a brush, I'm continuing with that lavender shade under my eye as well. You see what I'm saying? So we're kind of keeping it purple everywhere. Everywhere. Because, I don't know. It's a very spring kind of color. And as I said, this palette is super unique in its color story. It's part of the reason why I like the brand. So, I'm just gonna apply kind of a circle, but blend it out all the way around my eye. Now I know this isn't the typical Betsy look, but you'll see. It's going to be pretty. I love this shade. Because a lot of times lavenders don't work on me, and this one does. So, and I did prime my eyes with the NARS Smudge Proof eyeshadow base. That is a favorite primer. I think it's really good. But my favorite of all times is the Gerard Cosmetics Clean Canvas Eye Base at this point. I have more of them. I'm just trying to use up some of the other eyeshadow bases that I have, honestly. So as you can see, I'm just kind of building around the whole eye socket with that purple. Lavender purple. Same difference, isn't it? So I need to apply more here and here. And we are gonna deepen it up, don't worry. Okie dokie. So I'm liking how that looks. Doesn't that kind of look scary though? It's like, whew, you look like you got punched in the face. I'm just taking a clean BK Beauty 201 just to get away any of the fallout, because I did have a little bit of fallout, nothing major, but I did have some. So now I'm gonna grab, this is a ColourPop E21, and to kind of build on the halo eye, since there's no more purples, I'm gonna go into this shimmer shade, which is called Dark Paradise. But it is a beautiful shimmer shade. I'm gonna kind of use it more as like a matte, even though it isn't anywhere close to a matte. And we're just applying that on the inner and outer portion up top. So you can kind of see what I'm saying. It gives depth, but it's nothing super crazy. And I'm doing it upper and lower because I want the halo to kind of be all the way around. And I am keeping this in the crease as well with the shade Dark Paradise, but I'm not bringing it high, if that makes sense. The weather is still bad, but we got like a whole lot of bad weather coming. But yeah, so far, as I've said, this is the third palette by Rebel Rouge that I have. I really enjoy their formula. Okay, so I like that. I'm going around the edge just a little bit with my Spectrum brush, but kind of clean. So you can kind of see the basis for the eye look. I'm gonna dust again. I really like this. Okay, so because this doesn't have, I've used every shade now in this palette. I am gonna pull out, this is my Break the Rules palette by It's Belle, because I want something super sparkly and shiny in the center. So that's what we're going to do. And I do like to mix palettes from time to time, and I was like, this would definitely go well. So I'm taking my Too Faced glitter glue, and we're going to apply that into the center of the halo. And I'm doing it underneath as well. And this is just a Sigma, this is the E54 side of this brush, but they come with some really good brushes. So I'm gonna go into the shade Go Rogue, which is like a beautiful, beautiful, like purple and blue multi-chrome. And as you can see, I'm just stamping that on the center and applying it a little bit underneath. Okay, there we go. Isn't that pretty? But see how much that adds like extra dimension to this halo eye? That's a really pretty color. And It's Belle does have a great formula. Now I do know that they are private labeled, but private label doesn't bother me. If you know you're working on your dream of having your own makeup brand and it's your color story and stuff like that, that's what matters to me. And if it's a good formula, because I don't want private labeled stuff that's not good. You know what I'm saying? Like, I still want eyeshadows that work. Okay, and I'm just blending that using the edge down on the bottom. What do you think? I think this looks so cool. Okay, where's my clean brush? Okay, now I'm just going over the edges with that clean brush. Make sure I don't have a lot of fallout, which I mean, not too bad. I really like this. It's like I have sparkly, tired eyes. So I'm gonna take, this is the ColourPop BFF Gel Cream Eyeliner in Amethyst Hour. So it's like a lavender. And I'm going to apply that on my waterline, because it will help to open up the eye a little bit. Okay, and I'm going to apply, this is the Chantecaille mascara. This isn't my favorite mascara, but it's good, and I paid a bunch of money for it, so I want to use it all up. And it's crazy because like before I have on mascara, the look looks super crazy. And I know that. So that is the basis for the look. I'm gonna go off camera and I'm gonna apply some false lashes and we'll come back and talk about my thoughts on the palette. So I'm back and I have the rest of my face on. I did decide to go ahead and use the shade Your Choice, this one down here, from the It's Belle palette as an inner corner highlight. But I will tell you, I am so in love with this look. I think it looks so pretty. And I am in love with the Gods and Monsters palette. The mattes are phenomenal. The shimmers, even though they're not my favorite type of shimmers, they still work beautifully. And even in pictures, like going back and looking at the pictures I've taken, they sparkle more than I thought they did. But I would definitely recommend trying out Rebel Rouge Labs. I always love to support a small business, and I think that their products are great quality. So I guess that's it. We'll see y'all later.